Well, let's talk about these developments now with RAfadi, who is a forensic investigator with BIZZ Tracers. Calvin, good evening and welcome to Full View. You heard the comments there from Vincent Magwenya, the presidency spokesperson. The possibility is very much alive. And this was in response to our political editor's question around the possibility of deploying law enforcement and the army, particularly to Eskom's sites. And I would love your thoughts on, whether this is the right route to go and what your reaction is against the backdrop of existing threats to Eskom's assets.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. I think what the guy the president's spokesperson, I think they are diagnosing the problem very wrongfully so, because we are talking national key point here. So it means they must first declare, because before they can bring the army, they must first declare the site as a national disaster, and of which is not a disaster. But what is happening is we've been coming on this particular station saying there's lack of security at Eskom, there is no security. But first we must diagnose what is the problem at Eskom. Because if you can deploy any official or any policeman or even the SANDF, it means they must go behind every engineer that moves around in the power station. And those type of challenges is just a tip in an iceberg. The main challenge, the main problem is at the procurement, where you get informal tendering of what we call the LPO, local purchase order, because the people that mostly break the power station, they manipulate so that they can get on the other side at the procurement to get back the job and make more money. And then you get those in the security cluster, of which they compromise one another. Like we said, if you get a big company at Eskom to do the guarding at a power station, then it must transfer the skill to a 30% company. Now the shenanigans and the loophole is also there, because they sabotage one another in arresting one another and framing one another with cable theft. No, those are the people that they get arrested on daily basis, if not weekly basis. Because remember, at these power stations, you get a lot of sabotage, and cases are open of sabotage daily, especially the power stations are in and around Mpumalanga. So I wouldn't recommend the military to go there, but we need strong security who understand when we speak of business intelligence, the quality management system, it lacks at Eskom.
And I guess what you're saying really goes to the bigger issue of a lack of, specialist knowledge or expertise at Eskom, which compounds already existing problems. I mean, we've heard over and over again, insiders at Eskom, including the GM of security, decrying the seriousness with which, either investigators or law enforcement takes certain cases involving, involving either theft or fraud or corruption at Eskom's sites. So, again, besides going back to the informal trade, the level at which those informal companies are coming in to do work at Eskom, what are some of the other opportunities for Eskom to really go to the heart of dealing with the saboteurs and the sabotage matters?
Look, they must firstly look at the issue about the ROTEC employees. Some of the ROTEC and Roshcon employees, they are the ones who are sabotaging this power station because they feel entitled about them being working there for quite a number of years, and they know the power station from the back of their head. So whoever that you deploy or you take them on to go on the challenges there, they must first understand the politics and the industry in relation to what we call ROTEC and Roshcon. Now, secondly, what is mostly emerging in the power station, which is mostly the sabotage at the power station, you get the illegal business forums. They've penetrated, they've influenced who gets informal tendering and even big tenders on maintaining what we call the CNI maintenance, your control and instrumental, which is the boiler makers and your turbine. Now, they go as far as influencing who must get those contracts. And if those people that they've appointed, that they lined them up to get those contracts as their engines or kickbacks, if they don't get it, they sabotage one another. So the whole cartel is a big syndicate whereby we need to diagnose it each by each, from the business forum into the ROTEC and Roshcon industry, as far as even in procurement. Then we'll be sitting here and knowing who are the people that are sabotaging the infrastructure of Eskom.
Calvin, you're reminding the country that theft and sabotage have been stalking Eskom for a long time. We saw, everything from the contractors to the truck drivers being implicated in things like the theft of coal, and being engaged in activities of sabotage on some of Eskom's sites. Given that this problem is so complex, do you not think that it is a good idea to tackle it on two fronts? The one is the internal forensic investigative work that you're suggesting must take place to kind of smoke, the wrongdoers out, but at the same time, physically on the ground protecting those assets.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of the procurement issues, I realize that even some of our organized crime detectives, they don't have a special skill in investigating issues of procurement, like your treasury, your triple PEs, your PFMA, all the clause that relates to that. And, speaking of that, one day you're going to shake my head, because around 2024, 2025, we're going to see a lot of lawsuits whereby people will be suing even the government themselves, saying we've been under investigations, but this is not properly done. But besides that, also physical security is needed at Eskom, and we need a strong forensic investigation within the department of Eskom. But the forensic department must also report straight to the board, because they report to legal, and they also report to the head of security. And that's where also the loophole is at, because they sit and analyze which cases they can take it to SIU or to the law enforcement, and which one involves some of their bodies. And those cases, they don't see the light of the day, even in court, or even seeing arrest. So again, people are protecting one another there at Eskom, and a lot of guys, that's why you see a lot of engineering resigning. They know the truth, by the way. And they don't know where to report this truth, because they've realized that people are protecting one another. But sabotage, it is very rife at Eskom. And even when you can check the stats of many cases that are opening, especially around the Mpumalanga, there's massive of cases.
Just a final thing, Calvin, before I let you go. What's the biggest risk then to deploying the army, or this consolidated possibility of a consolidated law enforcement, including the army, to some of these sites?
Look, it shows that the ANC didn't diagnose the problem of Eskom correctly. So, and I'll tell you why. They've got a committee, the Net Joint Committee, that I'm not sure if they sit in the office of the Deputy President or in the office of the President, but they've been there, and they're the ones who by now should be giving reports to the new board, diagnosing the problem, that this is what we have found. But you can see that the way they're diagnosing this problem, they are not sitting with those reports. I mean, like I said, if you deploy the army at Eskom in the power stations, it means every employee now, an army personnel should move around with them. And that is not the problem. So it shows that they haven't diagnosed the problem correctly. So the problem is people are protecting one another in terms of forensic investigations that are ongoing in Eskom, and only the foot soldiers get compromised and they get arrested. And like I say, there's lack of security at Eskom. Some of the security personnel, because they fight for contract, they also sabotage one another so that they can move away from the BE companies or the 30%, so that they can get more job and get the big chunk. So one needs to understand what first you're dealing with before, they say without data, it's just an opinion. Like today, what I've seen of the SANDF is just an opinion, perhaps. But they need the data collection. They need to know what they are dealing with at Eskom.
Calvin RAfadi, thank you for your time this evening. He's a forensic investigator with BIZZ Tracers.